Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars, and let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on the 1 hour time frame, and then we're going to move to higher and higher time frames. As always, I will only be covering the unbiased technical analysis and nothing more. In yesterday's video, we were trading somewhere right around here and talking about the liquidity just below this level of support. Of course, the warning signal we were looking out for was a break of this trend line here, which we saw today in combination with a bearish divergence on this 1 hour time frame. Now, a bearish divergence points towards us getting a break from all of this bullish price action we saw before that, and usually it plays out either in the form of some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bearish momentum. Of course, so far we saw that bearish momentum exactly down to this area of liquidity that we used as our target for this short position. So of course I called this out in real time inside my Discord community. Congratulations to everyone that actually took that trade. And of course, I also took this trade myself, leading to a nice 68% profit on this move to the downside here. So what is going to happen next for Bitcoin? Well, before we get too excited and calling for massive bumps to the upside, at the very least, we need to see a break above 71.5K. But if you see this happen, guys, then there is going to be massive liquidity to the upside to possibly sustain a larger move as well. Very likely you are going to see some kind of continuation to the upside, and you have a very clear point of invalidation as well. For example, if you get a move above, it comes down to retest, for example, though it doesn't have to. But if it then fails this retest here, then it simply invalidates this as the base case, and you just need to wait for another break above, because this is the key area that Bitcoin is currently playing around. Currently, the support of which is sitting at about 67,000, and so long as we are holding above this, then there doesn't have to be like a major problem for Bitcoin. And yeah, we'll continue to look for a potential further move to the upside. But if we start seeing a break of this, especially breaking down below these lows, sitting at 65.5K, roughly speaking, that is going to be a big warning signal in the short term. And we need to entertain the possibility of a further rollover and new lows being created in the Bitcoin price after that as well. So this is now the new warning signal that I'm looking out for. Something else to note here is that on this 1 day time frame, currently we are still trading inside this big area of resistance, sitting from 67.5 all the way up to 70,000. The next area of resistance is sitting from 71.5 all the way up to 73K, and the next board level to the downside is sitting from 66 all the way down to 65,000. And while we are in a very clear downtrend, making lower lows and lower highs, potentially if we actually get a break above that 71.5K level, then we are actually seeing higher lows coming in here, potentially this as a higher low as well. And we have a higher high at that point. So this is what you call an uptrend. You simply draw an ascending trend line here as well. And then in the short term, we are actually trading to the upside with upside liquidity while holding above an ascending trend line. That is just simply bullish in the short term. But with that backdrop of being in a massive downtrend on the daily, you need to understand that if warning signals show up, it is probably a very good time to manage your risk at that point and just take your profits or try to look for some kind of short position. And something else to take note of on the 1 day time frame are these Bollinger Bands. Notice how after this period of basically just some choppy sideways price action for Bitcoin, we saw massive expansion in these Bollinger Bands, which played out in the form of this very strong downtrend here. But my base case now is that we are actually going to see a contraction in the volatility for Bitcoin. We've been looking at this for quite a while, but you can see that this is already playing out here. So I'm expecting that we are going to see a period of lower volatility for Bitcoin to give these Bollinger Bands some time to actually come back and contract once again, depending on how long we actually chomp sideways for. Like, for example, if we do this for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something, then we are once again going to see a massive squeeze in the Bollinger Bands, which typically happens right before we get massive expansion again, which would mean that we get massive relative volatility for Bitcoin after we see that squeeze. So I will just continue to update you guys about this every single day as we continue to see this playing out. Moving on to the 1 week time frame, here we are still breaking out from this bearish flag pattern, which set up these price targets all the way down at 52,000 and even 45K in the Bitcoin price. So on the higher time frames, nothing has changed for me. Still looking for lower prices for Bitcoin. I do also think that this is the most likely outcome, so long as this doesn't get invalidated. What I mean by invalidated is if we get a move above 87,000 in the Bitcoin price, then and only then will I be crossing off these targets here. But so long as we don't see that happen, guys, then my base case expectation is that we are just going to trend towards these two levels. Now finally, let's move on to the Bitcoin liquidity analysis. First of all, 3-day time frame, you can see that we perfectly moved down to this big bucket of liquidity, which, like I said in yesterday's video, guys, as soon as you see this trendline break, you can start to target this exact area where a bunch of people get liquidated. So your take profit target is going to be their stop loss, which can be a very good strategy. And in this case, we see it playing out perfectly. Very happy with that trade, of course. Moving on to the 2-week time frame, currently there is massive liquidity to the upside. In the case that you don't know, typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there's the most liquidity in this chart. So right now that is to the upside with a bunch of liquidity, for example, sitting at 73K, 77K, and even 80,000 in the Bitcoin price. Although if we zoom out even further, you can see that most of that liquidity is sitting at 93K. And let me come back to the chart here because I hope that we don't get a move up to 93K. To be honest, of course, as always, we're just going to take it one day at a time. But I have to say that getting a move like this and then rolling over, for example, would be an absolute nightmare to deal with, because you're getting a bunch of signals at that point. For example, the trendline break, for example, the invalidation, targeting liquidity up here. And I am 100% certain that at this point, everyone is going to be super bullish, while a rollover even then could still be completely on the table. Now, as always, even if we get some kind of move like this, I'm going to keep you guys updated every single day. We're going to draw some kind of ascending trend line, as well as do a bunch of other analysis. And as soon as we see those warning signals show up, I will point it out in my videos and we will try to capture the next big move for Bitcoin. Now, this here is not my base case, but I'm just talking about some possible scenarios here. So either way, this has been today's market update. Make sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of these important update videos. But regardless, if you do end up doing that or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.